Batas Pambansa bilang 232, Educational Act of 1982. So Section 3, the contribution of the educational system to the attainment of the following developmental goals.
So it is the section that achieve and maintain the accelerating rate of economic development and social progress, and also to ensure the maximum participation and enjoyment of the benefit of such growth, to achieve and strengthen national unity and consciousness, and preserve, develop, and promote desirable cultural, moral, and values in a changing world. So Section 4, the aims of educational system. It provides for broad general education. The will assist each individuals in the peculiar ecology of his own society. It attain his potentials as human being, enhance the range and quality of individual and group participation in the basic functions of society, acquire the essential educational foundation of his development into a productive and versatile citizen. Number two, train nation manpower in the middle level skills for national development. And number three, develop the profession that will provide leadership for the nation in the advancement of knowledge for improving the quality of human life. Number four, respond effectively changing needs and conditions of the nation through a system of educational planning and evolution.
Section 6, the educational community. So this section is for parents, students, school personnel, or all persons working for an educational institution. Teaching or academic staff, or all persons engaged in actual teaching or the research assignments either on full-time or part-time basis in all levels of educational systems. School administrators or all persons occupying policy implementing positions having to do with the functions of the school in all levels, academic non-teaching personnel or those who persons holding some academic qualification and performing academic functions directly. Section 8, the rights of parents. The right to organize by themselves and or with teachers for the purpose of providing a forum for the discussion of matters relating to the total school program and for ensuring the full cooperation of parents and teachers in the formulation and efficient implementation of such programs. The right to access to any official record directly relating to the children who are under the parental responsibility. Section 9, the right of students in school. So it is the right to receive primarily through competent instruction, relevant quality education in line with national goals and conducive to their full development as persons with human dignity, to freely choose their field of study subject to existing curricula and to continue their course, the right to the school guidance and counseling services, the access to his own school records, the confidentially of which the school shall maintain and preserve, the right to the assurance of official certificate, diplomas, transcript of records, grades, transfer, credentials, the right to publish a student newspaper and similar publication, the free will express its opinions and suggestions, the right to be free from involuntary contribution except those approved by their own organizations or societies. Section 10, right of all school personnel. So this is the rights for all school personnel to be provided with free legal service by the appropriate government office in the case of public school personnel, and through the school authorities concerned in the case of private school personnel when charged in an administrative, civil, or criminal proceedings by parties other than school or regulatory authorities concerned for actions committed directly in the lawful discharge of professional duties or in defense of school policies, the right to establish, join, and maintain labor organizations, professional and self-regulating organization of their choice to promote their welfare and defend their interests. Section 11, Special Rights or Privileges of Teaching or Academic Act. the right to be free from compulsory assignments not related to their duties as defined in their appointments or employment contracts unless compensated therefor, and conformably to existing law, the right to intellectual property consistent with applicable laws. Teachers shall be deemed persons of authority when in discharge of lawful duties and responsibilities, and shall therefore be accorded due respect and protection. Teachers shall be afforded by opportunity to choose alternative career lines either in school administration, in classroom teaching, or other purposes of career advancement. Section 14, Duties of Parents. Parents individually or collectively through the school systems shall help carry out educational objectives in accordance with national goals. Parents shall be obligated to enable their children to obtain elementary education and shall strive to enable them to obtain secondary and higher education in the pursuance of the right formation of the youth. Parents shall cooperate with the school in the implementation of the school program, curricular, and co-curricular. Section 15, Duties and Responsibilities of Students. It is the exert his utmost to develop his potentialities for service, particularly by undergoing an education suited to his abilities in order that he may become an asset to his family and to society. Uphold the academic integrity of the school, endeavor to achieve academic excellence and abide by the rules and regulations governing his academic responsibilities and moral integrity. Promote and maintain the peace and tranquility of the school by observing the rules and discipline and by exerting efforts to attain harmonious relationships with fellow students and teaching and academic staff and other school personnel. Section 16, Teacher's Obligation. It is perform his duties to the school by discharging his responsibilities in accordance with the philosophy, goals, and objectives of the school. Be accountable for the efficient and effective attainment of specified learning objectives in pursuance of national development goals within the limits of available school resources. Render regular reports on performance of each student and the latter's parents and the guardians with specific suggestions for improvement. Assume the responsibility to maintain and sustain his professional growth and advancement and maintain professionalism in his behavior at all times. Refrain from making deductions in students' scholastic rating for acts that are clearly not manifestations of poor scholarships. Participate as an agent of constructive moral, intellectual, cultural, and political change in his school and the community within the context of national policies. Section 20, Formal Education Levels. Formal education shall correspond to the following levels. Elementary education. The first stage of compulsory formal education primarily concerned with providing basic education and usually corresponding to 6 or 7 grades, including preschool programs. Secondary education, the state of formal education following the elementary level, concerned primarily with continuing basic education, expanding it to include the learning of employable gainful skills, usually corresponding to 4 years of high school. Tertiary education, post-secondary schooling is higher education leading to a degree in a specific profession or discipline.
Section 21, Objectives of Elementary Education. This is a basic education, provide knowledge and develop the skills, attitudes, and values.
Section 22, the objectives of secondary education, is to continue to promote the objectives of elementary education, to discover and enhance the different attitudes and interests of the students so as to equip with skills for productive endeavor or prepare him for tertiary schooling. Section 23, the objectives of tertiary education. This section provides a general education program that will promote national identity, cultural consciousness, moral integrity, and spiritual virtue. to train the nation's manpower in the skills required for national development, to develop the professions that will provide leadership for the nation, to advance knowledge through research, work, and applying new knowledge for improving the quality of human life and responding effectively to changing the societal needs and conditions. Section 24, Specialized Education Service. The state further recognizes its responsibility to provide, within the context of the formal education system, services to meet special needs of certain clientele, these specific types which shall be guided by the basic policies of the state embodied in the general provisions of this Act. Work education or practical arts, which aims to develop the right attitude towards work, and technical vocational education, post-secondary but non-degree programs. Special education, the education of persons who are physically, mentally, emotionally, socially, or culturally different from the so-called normal. And also non-formal education, any organized school-based educational activities undertaken by Ministry of Education, Culture and Sports and other agencies aimed at attaining specific learning objectives for a particular clientele, especially the illiterates and the out-of-school youth and adults distinct. Section 25, Establishment of Schools. All schools shall be established in accordance with law. The establishment of new national schools and the conversion of existing schools from elementary to national secondary or from secondary to national, secondary or tertiary schools shall be law, provided that any private school proposed to be established must incorporate as a non-stock educational corporation in accordance with the provisions of the Corporation Code of the Philippines. This requirement to incorporate may be waived in the case of family administered preschool institutions, government assistance to such schools for educational programs shall be used exclusively for that purpose. Section 27, Recognition of Schools.
In the case of government-operated schools, whether local, regional, or national, recognition of educational programs or operations shall be deemed granted simultaneously with establishment. Section 59, Functions of the Board of Higher Education. The main thrust of higher education is to achieve equity, efficiency, and high quality in the institutions of higher learning, both public and private, so that together they will provide a complete set of program offerings that meet both national and regional development needs.
Section 62, Function of the Bureau of Elementary Education. Conduct studies and formulate, develop, and evaluate programs and educational standards for elementary education. Undertake studies necessary for the preparation of prototype curricular designs, instructional materials, and teacher training programs for elementary education. Formulate guidelines to improve elementary school physical plans and equipment and general management of these schools. Section 63, Function of the Bureau of Secondary Education. It is conduct studies and formulate, develop, and evaluate programs and educational standards for secondary education. It develops curricular designs, prepare instructional materials, and prepare and evaluate programs to update the quality of the teaching and non-teaching staff at the secondary level. Formulate guidelines to improve the secondary school, physical plans and equipment, and general management of these schools. Section 64, Function of the Bureau of Technical and Vocational Education. So this is collaborate with other agencies in the formulation of manpower plans, conduct studies, formulate, develop, and evaluate post-secondary vocational technical programs and recommended educational standards for these programs, develop curricular designs and prepare instructional materials, prepare and evaluate programs to upgrade the quality of teaching and non-teaching staff, and formulate guidelines to improve the physical plant and equipment of post-secondary vocational technical schools. Section 65, Function of the Bureau of Higher Education. Develop, formulate, and evaluate programs, projects, and educational standards for higher education. provide staff assistance to the Board of Higher Education in its policy formulation and advisory functions, provide technical assistance to the encourage institutional development programs and projects, compile, analyze, and evaluate data on higher education, perform other functions provided for by Section 66. Function of the Bureau of Continuing Education. The Bureau shall provide learning programs or activities that shall
serve as a means of meeting the learning needs of those unable to avail themselves of the educational services of the programs of formal education, provide opportunities for the acquisition of skills necessary to enhance and ensure continuing employability, efficiency, productivity, and competitiveness in the labor market, serve as a means for expanding access to educational opportunities to citizens of varied interests, demographic characteristics, and socioeconomic origins or status.